Welcome to Cage Minds MMA show. I'm Micah Frankel. I'd appreciate it if you visited cageminds.com. Latest news from the combat sports world, results from this past weekend's events, and some great interviews up. The most recent one with Invicta FC debuter Kayla Yontef. Also, when you're on the internet, go over to nmproshop.com to get your Cage Minds apparel. First thing to get to, and I know you've already heard about it a lot. It happened a week ago. The Contender Series returned, and Dana White was in a giving mood, handing out contracts all over the place. We know the controversial eye poke, Yo Anderson Brito getting the controversial technical decision win. The guy has like 3 to 4 eye poke fouls, and eye poke stops the fight early. Brito still gets the contract. Diego Lopes probably should have got one, and this fight either should have been remade for another Contender Series bout or to be continued in the UFC. Victor Altamirano and Carlos Candelario, that was an absolute war. It was a split decision. Could have went either way. It really could have. And Dana White gives the first guy who's coming off of a loss on the Contender Series a contract, so we got a first. That's awesome. AJ Fletcher, he broke the internet with that flying knee, backing up Leonardo Damani and then letting it go. That was a great one, and I jumped all the way over it, but we'll get back up to it. The main event, Asmat Murazan-Karanov beating Matthew Scheffel. Incredible technical striking, backed up the Brazilian, and then the Russian found that awkward angle to put the left hand, kind of like a hook uppercut, gets the first round knockout 3 minutes in. Then we'll go fast forward. A slow week, not much to talk about, just UFC, not really many of the other promotions. We have a couple other things to get to, but UFC Fight Night on Saturday, that was your main course for the weekend. Derek Brunson, number 5, number 7, Darren Till in the main event. And you know by now, Derek Brunson got the job done. A rear naked choke in the 3rd round. Till started out well, winning the striking, landing a little bit more on Derek Brunson. Brunson, to his credit, he's really cleaned up his technical issues. No more running forward, chin out. Using his striking to set up that wrestling, and only striking long enough to set up that wrestling. Gets the takedown, wins the first round, and the second round getting on top. Vicious ground and pound. By the 3rd round, I even tweeted it out, it looked like Derek Brunson had lost a little bit. He was starting to tire. He was starting to slow down. And Darren Till was starting to land. He was starting to land some big, vicious shots. Looked like he had Brunson hurt. Brunson goes for the takedown. Full on tackle with the double leg. So powerful that he almost flies over, giving Till the daylight for the reversal. Was not to be as Brunson lands into mount. Couple powerful shots. A panicking Darren Till gives up his back, and the rear naked choke isn't even fully locked in, it looked like, from the camera angle I was watching before the tap, tap, tap comes in. Great win streak. Now 5 in a row for Derek Brunson, getting no love and no respect from Israel Adesanya. Now as far as Darren Till goes, it's disappointing, but I don't know if it's doom and gloom. He's still a young fighter. He'll have some time. So we'll have some time to talk about him, but let's focus on the man in the spotlight. It's Derek Brunson. It's the win streak. It's at 37 years old, Brunson putting together a run that puts him in title contention. I don't know if many people really thought this was going to be a true possibility when you saw Brunson lose to Jacare and Adesanya in back-to-back contests in 2018. When you saw Brunson lose back-to-back fights to Whitaker and Silva. You didn't know if this was going to be possible, but 5 straight wins, the wrestling, putting it all together, the ground and pound, and now a rear naked choke. Great victories for Derek Brunson. But still, unfortunately for Brunson, popularity, fame, viewership, that all counts. It plays a big part in who gets title opportunities. It's automatic. Robert Whittaker has done enough. Robert Whittaker deserves the next shot at Israel Adesanya. The UFC is going to make that fight happen. Jared Cannonier is coming off of a win now over Kelvin Gastelum. He wants to stay busy. Derek Brunson's probably going to need another win, and we know that lined up here shortly, you will see Paulo Acosta versus Marvin Vettori. So Brunson is either looking at Cannonier or looking at the winner of that Vettori-Costa fight. If you're Brunson, the best case scenario is being an alternate and being on the card where Whittaker faces Adesanya. I don't think this win, as great as it is, as much hype and momentum would have been garnered by Darren Till's victory, you don't get that same kind of push, elevation from the victory that Derek Brunson got. But Brunson now, a 5-fight win streak, and man, one win away from that world title fight that he so desires. On the other side, Darren Till was at number 7. We know that Luke Rockhold is trying to jump back in the mix. He's going to be fighting number 8, Sean Strickland. Till and Kelvin Gastelum already fought. It was a close fight. They're both coming off of losses. Maybe you run it back. Uriah Hall was not himself. He was stuck in the mud when he fought Sean Strickland. Maybe it's a Darren Till, Uriah Hall fight. I'm not going to give up yet on Darren Till as a middleweight. I think that we saw in the Kelvin Gastelum fight, even in the technical striking matchup with Robert Whittaker, Darren Till has the skills, has the attributes to be able to compete at 185 pounds with the best strikers. Now, can he compete with the best wrestlers? But this side of Derek Brunson, you're not going to hit many more wrestlers looking at the rest of the top 15. So I see an opportunity. Michael Bisping wants to see Till back down at 170 pounds. That would take dedication to the diet, and it would take true preparation to be optimal at that weight class, as he was having issues getting down that extra 15 pounds. It's a huge jump from 85 to 70. I think that it'd be easier to put dedication in on fine-tuning some of those technical aspects of takedown defense. Again, that you're probably not going to have to worry about against most of these guys, and just continuing this run at 185 pounds. Spent a minute there on the main event. Yes, that main event deserved it. The co-main event must talk about 213 versus 14. Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Spivak. Heavyweights that are ranked. Tom Aspinall, I said this was an opportunity coming into this event that he had to show out. He had to be a guy that when we were walking away from this event, we were talking about him and that we wanted to see him in bigger fights. We saw composure. We saw a guy that was able to take his time, be measured, was able to then take what he observed and used it. We saw Aspinall first starting to load up, looking for big one strikes, turned up the speed, started long combinations. That's when they found themselves in the clinch. A big right elbow hurt Spivak. He goes to the ground, some ground and pound. The finish in the first round. Keep the hype train rolling for Tom Aspinall, who in a surprising notion, everybody wants to call out, everybody wants the big name to be targeted, and Tom's like, that's for everybody else to do. He's at 13. He'd like to fight 12. That's Blagoy Ivanov, and that's the official call out. I mean, if you wanted to say Aspinall versus Walt Harris, jump him up to 11 even, as he wants to go rung by rung. Maybe one little jump like that would be fun. As you're thinking the jumps are getting closer, Marcin Tybura is fighting Alexander Volkov here at UFC 267. So we could see that Aspinall may get to those higher ranks sooner than later, even though he's one guy that's actually trying to take it quite slow. Also on that main card, the feature fight position, Alex Morono versus David Zawada. Morono, with his awkward striking, awkward angles, a stinging right hand causing damage over the eye of Zawada, and some slapping left hands. Zawada was never really able to get a beat on what Morono was doing with his awkward style, offbeat stance. Another win for Alex Morono, a guy that really should be creeping towards a top 15 matchup here. That's 2 in a row. That's 3 of his last 4, and it's against high caliber competition. Khalil Roundtree versus Modesta Bukauskas. Maybe you've heard of this one. Big pressure, huge hooks. Roundtree looking for the kill early and often. Bloodying up Bukauskas, blood dripping from the nose, was just looking for the devastating punch. The second round, Modestas leans forward for a jab, puts a lot of weight on that left leg, and we get the oblique kick that John Jones made famous. Perfect timing from Roundtree, and you literally see it looks like the knee pops and goes back in. Bukauskas is down in pain, jumps in the ref, a TKO automatically, and then the internet once again going crazy about that technique, about the damage it does to the leg. I gotta tell you, this is probably the first time I've actually seen, maybe the second, that I've seen that technique work to its optimal perfection where it gets a TKO finish. And I understand it caused the leg injury, but so does checking kicks. Blocking kicks breaks arms. Taking punches to the head causes brain damage and knockouts. So as people were horrified by this technique, that's just a kick to the leg. Let's just take into account again what we're watching. The main card started out also with the debut of the most hyped Cage Warriors champion since Conor McGregor. A 2-division champion just like Conor McGregor. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett defeats Luigi Vendramini by first round knockout, but it wasn't that simple. Vendramini landed some mean counter left hooks. The Brazilian hurt the Englishman, it looked like, on 2 separate occasions, but was unable to find the finish. You had right hooks from Pimblett, then start to find the target cleanly, a wild exchange, and the right hooks get the job done inside of the first round. On the prelims, feature prelim, Molly McCann versus Ji-Yoon Kim. It was McCann's pressure boxing in the second and third rounds. She ate counter rights early, but went back to her bread and butter and got the victory by decision. Jack Shore, still unbeaten, keeps the hype train rolling against Ludwig Shalinian and gets the takedowns. It was a crisp jab. The Welsh fighter, 15-0 in a deep 135-pound division, but I want to see him against a big-time competitor. Catchweight bout, Julian Erosa, underdog, coming in against Charles Jourdain, the Canadian. Great back and forth on the feet. Erosa found his advantage though with the takedowns, and when Jourdain stood up untechnically in the third round, a little bit scared, leaving the head down, it was Erosa locking up the Barboa choke to get the submission victory. And the card opened up with Marc-Andre Bachel versus Dache Lungbe, and it was the Burchell pressure boxing, continual pressure in the face, that gets the decision victory. Dache, dynamic knockout in his debut, but 3 straight losses. Unfortunately, looks like a prospect that wasn't ready for the deepest competition in the world. Now, also this past week, we got to mention Combate Global had an event in Miami. In the main event, you saw a huge upset come by submission as Kevin Cordero takes out Ricky Bandejas. Bandejas looked to have really become a reclamation project and found himself in Combate, and after 2 victories suffers the submission loss now. Also around the world this weekend, there was Glory 78 in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. Artem Vahitov becomes a 2-time Glory light heavyweight champion. He had lost the belt by split decision, and by majority decision dethrones Alexander Pereira, regaining the title. And it's speculated that Pereira is done with kickboxing and is going to sign with the UFC and go after his old rival Israel Adesanya. That card also saw a stunning upset, as after scoring 3 knockdowns in the first round, the legend Badahari was caught by a left head kick and suffered a second round knockout loss. Turn our attention to the news and headlines from this past week. Start out with the fight announcements. The UFC has announced for their November 13th Fight Night a pair of editions at 185 pounds. Eric Anders is going to be facing Roman Dolidze, and in a women's featherweight action, Felicia Spencer will take on tough winner Leah Letson. The UFC's November 20th Fight Night event has added a top 15 welterweight matchup, Michael Chiesa versus Sean Brady. That one's good. And then in a top 15 lightweight matchup added to the December 4th Fight Night, Brad Riddle versus Rafael Fiziev. That one's going to be a lot of fun. Also, for Bellator news, Bellator Moscow has 5 editions. The biggest one, a main card fight that will see number 6 ranked lightweight contender Usman Nurmagomedov, who's 13-0, against Patrick Patella, making his promotional debut. So he is unranked. Now, as far as some extra spicy headlines, Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz both want you to know that they want to fight. At least that's what it appears from what they're doing on Twitter. Nate Diaz at one point looked to have targeted top 5 ranked welterweight Vicente Luque, but has now turned his attentions back to his old rival. Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz have been engaged in quite the intriguing war of words on Twitter. The back and the forth, the trash talk, the talk of injuries, the talk of tapping, the talk of leg kicks and leg breaks and not being able to stand up. And what it's leading to is the golden ticket. It's the ace up the sleeve. It's the lottery ticket that the UFC has been saving. And on all sides, it's time to cash it in. The UFC needs to know what to do with a Nate Diaz who, to the public, won his last fight. But unfortunately, with what happened with Jorge Masvidal and Leon Edwards, in reality, Diaz has lost his last couple fights. Conor McGregor, still a huge star, still a big pay-per-view draw. You're going to buy the pay-per-view. But he's losing fights. He's lost his last couple in the octagon. What's the way to refresh their careers? To go back in time and to go to the rivalry that made them the superstars that they are. It's 1-1. The trilogy isn't over. The series was never settled. That means the grudge and the beef, it still exists, and it's still there to the point where they can go up to the slot machine, pull the lever. It's time to cash in. One of the two gets a huge victory and gets back on track to a huge fight. The other guy, unfortunately, will continue the downhill slide of their career. It's quite perfect. This was the rivalry that uplifted them. This is the rivalry that quite possibly could end one of them. And that's just who's not the real draw anymore. This week's action, it's a light week going on. You have Contender Series Week 2 on Tuesday night. Main event, Josh Quinlan, 100% finishing rate. He's undefeated. His last 3 wins have come in the LFA. He's taking on short notice replacement Logan Yerbin. Yerbin also 100% finishing rate. Both guys have 3 knockouts and 2 submissions. Your co-main events at 185 pounds is Mario Sosa, who's 12-1, a 5-fight win streak, 11 finishes, 7 of them knockouts. He takes on well-traveled, well-known Bellator, RFA vet, LFA vet, Chidi Bang Bang Njokuani, 19-7, 11 wins by knockout. In a bantamweight bout on short notice, Jose all day, 14-5-1. The former Combate champion is jumping in to take on Simon Oliveira, a 4-fight win streak, 16 finishes, 11 of them submissions. That one's going to hit the ground and be dangerous. In flyweight action, Bruno Cora, 12-3-1, 5-0-1 in his last 6-7 wins by submission, takes on Carlos Varga, who comes in at 8-2-1, 4-fight win streak, all of them knockouts. And the card opens up with 135-pounders Muingarov, who is 17-3. 5 of his last 6 he's won. He's taking on Chad Anhel, 10-5, 8-fight win streak though. 7 finishes, 3 guillotines, his last 3 wins by knockout. A ton of finishers who are hungry for this opportunity is what's the storyline heading into week 2 of Dana White's Contender Series. Then Friday night, you do have some action over on Bare Knuckle FC TV. It's Bare Knuckle FC 21 from Omaha, Nebraska. A bunch of familiar names for the MMA community. Main event has Dakota Cochran versus Mike Richmond. Come on, you guys know those names. Cochran has fought everybody. He showed off wrestling and striking in his time, while Richmond has showed off beautiful boxing in every MMA fight I've seen him in. Co-main event, Sam Shoemaker versus Bellator vet Josh Burns. That's a heavyweight bout. Also, you got UFC vet Houston Alexander versus Wes Combs. And PFL UFC vet Jason High versus Rocky Long. More MMA action to talk about on Saturday over on UFC Fight Pass. It's Eternal MMA 61 from Southport, Queensland, Australia. Daniel Hill defends his lightweight title against Jack Becker in the main event. Sunday, Fury FC 51, still on Fight Pass. That one's from Denver, Colorado. Lavelle Simpson versus Sherrard Blackledge, a lightweight title bout, headlines the card. Co-main event, UFC vet Rashard Coulter takes on Ty Flores. And don't forget also this weekend, boxing fans, Oscar De La Hoya has unfortunately tested positive for COVID-19. Vitor Belfort is still fighting on Taylor. It's now going to be against former heavyweight champion of the world, Evander Holyfield. And the fight has actually been moved from Los Angeles, California to Hollywood, Florida, because the California Commission would not license the 58-year-old Holyfield. The co-main event is still intact, and that's a 195-pound vet between former UFC champions Anderson Silva versus Tito Ortiz. Then you got boxing on ESPN Plus. Oscar Valdez defends his WBC junior lightweight title against Robertson Cancio. And this fight is happening even though Valdez has tested positive for a banned substance, not being fined, not being suspended. The commission in Arizona there allowing the fight to still go on. Have to note that stuff. On the local scene, don't forget, October 2nd, we have Grapple Fest going on. Check out Facebook to see the details of how you can watch that upcoming pay-per-view event. Limited tickets are available. On October 16th, Legacy Boxing Promotions. It's back to boxing at the Kiva Auditorium. So the local scene starting to heat up as we turn to fall. One more time, thank you for watching. Don't forget to visit cageminds.com and pick up your apparel at nmproshop.com.